Alright, we're looking at the clarinet. First thing you do, you open it. This one actually has a cover. Not all of them have that cover. You're going to want to put it together. Now, this is kind of tricky. It's best to start from the bottom to the top. The bell goes at the bottom. So if you want to take out one piece at a time. Then next is this biggest piece. You can tell it's that one because it has the thumb rest. You just take it, twist it in carefully. If you notice that it's pretty hard, you can use the cork grease. Looks like that, looks like a thing of chapstick. You pop it off. You very carefully rub onto the cork because it's cork grease. It only touches the cork. Put it on there. It'll give you a little bit of slipperiness to get that put in there all the way. The next piece you get is this middle joint, and when you put it on, here's where, if you don't do it right, you can cause some damage to the instrument. There's a little piece right here. You want to make sure that that piece goes over the lip there, and it's going to line up with a piece right here. Now if you're not careful, you can bend that if you get it jammed in wrong. So you want these holes to line up all the way in a line, and that's one of the ways that you can make sure that happens, is that little joint where it connects needs to go right along there.
Can we see how it looks connected, that little joint?
Right, okay. You see it?
Mm-hmm.
Right there, you want that to be connected. I'm going to take it apart one more time so you can see, here's a way that it would look if it were wrong. So you notice it's not lined up, and then so if you tried to play it, your fingers would be all wonky. So if it's not lined up, you just very carefully get those lined up, because if you're not careful, you'll bend that, and then you'll have to send your horn off to the shop, and your parents will get a bill, and then nobody will be happy, and yeah, we don't want that. So you have your thumb, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. There we go.
Where do I put my thumb, Mr. Trimble?
Oh, sorry, I'm not quite there yet. I was just making sure that I knew where I was. The last thing, oh, and while you're doing all this, I should have mentioned this to begin with. You need your reed as a clarinet player. The first thing you're going to do, you take it out of the case very carefully, and you just stick it in your mouth. Now this is not my reed, so I'm not going to stick it in my mouth. But you just sort of place it in there because the reed doesn't work unless it's kind of wet. So the main way that we get it wet, we just stick it in our mouth and just let it sit there. You don't need to suck on it. You definitely don't chew on it, because if you chew on it, it'll chip it or break it or crack it, and then it won't work anymore. So then while you're doing this, you're getting your reed wet, and then once all that's taken care of, you take your mouthpiece out. Now this metal piece here is called a ligature. It's already ready to go. You might need to loosen it some. Now you only loosen it as much as you need. You don't want to take these screws out. You just loosen it up enough. And there's a rounded side and a flat side. You put the flat side, it's best to take the ligature off. You put the flat side against the flat side of the reed, and you want to try to get the reed flush with the end of that. One of the high school clarinetists showed me that if you get down here and you push lightly, you can't see it now because it's dry, but when it's wet, you can see the black on the other side of that reed just a little bit, and it'll kind of help you get it in the right place. But for right now, oops, I put it on backwards. It should go over pretty easy. And you get it down there. You want to get it lined up. One of the big mistakes I see is people will just put this wherever it lands. You want to get these screws lined up on the bottom. And then you tighten it, but not too much. If you start playing your clarinet and you notice that it's not working, you may have over-tightened your reed. So if it's making a lot of squeaky noises and it won't play, you might loosen your reed a little bit, then try again. There you go. Now you don't want it too tight, you just want it tight enough that it'll hold it in place without moving all over. Then once you're ready, I forgot a piece. There's this little barrel joint right here. The big end goes there. You can't put it on the wrong way because it won't fit. But the big end goes there. I should be holding this steady. There you go. And then lastly, I didn't get that lined up quite right. I'm going to have to fix this. There you go. I noticed that I wasn't quite dead down the center with that ligature, which is this metal circle here. There we go. I think I got it fixed now. And that goes on. There we go. So whenever you hold it, for those of you that remember the recorders or the flutophones, it's really, really similar to the flutophone. On the back, there's a hole with a thumb key there. You're going to want to cover that up. That's going to be your default fingering. And then on the front, you just find the holes. If it's not a hole, it's not where your finger goes. So the first hole you see is your index finger, 1, 2, and 3. And then on the other side of the joint, there's 1, 2, and 3. And then you have your different pinky keys right over here, depending on which one you need. So really, this is pretty self-explanatory as far as it goes. You just find where the hole goes, stick your finger over it, make sure that you get a good seal, because if you're playing and say you're playing a note that has thumb 1, 2, 3, if you have your finger kind of off the hole to where it's not covered up and you try to play the note, it's not going to work because that air is leaking out. You got to make sure that those holes are nice and covered up. Use the fat part of your fingers and just cover it right up. Then when you play it, I'm not going to actually put my mouth on it, but your bottom lip goes on the reed. Your top goes on top, and you can use teeth on the top. On the bottom, though, you want to make sure it's your lip. You don't want to put your teeth on the reed because that can crack it or chip it. So you just put it up and over, and if you notice that your horn is not playing right, sometimes you need a little bit more in your mouth, sometimes you need a little bit less. So experiment with different places so that you can find the exact right spot to put your mouth. So then once we're ready to put it up, you're going to want to take mouthpiece, unscrew the reed. We're going to go ahead and take the ligature off. And if you like, you can go ahead and put that ligature back on there. Now your reed is going to go back in the case. If you don't put it back in the case, it can get mold and all sorts of other gross things on it. So you want to be sure to put it in the case because that helps keep all the other gross stuff away from it. Now you only push it in as far as it needs to go. So if you'll notice, just flush with there at the end. Don't push it in further than that because if you do, you can chip it there on the end. And you're going to want to be careful because it's easy if you're not paying attention to if your friend says, hey, look at this thing, and you go, what? And then you bend it up as you turn over, you can snap the reed while you're in there. So be sure that you're focusing while you're getting that taken care of. And that goes back in the case. Same thing if you have one of these. If you don't have one of these, caps for your mouthpiece, that's okay. You don't really need one, but this one has it, and it's nice to have. But if you don't have one, don't worry. And then one piece at a time. You want to be very, very careful, because if you grab too hard and twist, you can bend these bars, bend these keys, and it'll make it to where your clarinet won't sound right. And then that'll be a repair bill that gets sent home to mom and dad, and then they won't be happy, and you won't be happy, and nobody will be happy, and it'll be sad. You take it apart, then very carefully take that. Almost forgot. Clarinets also have some shove-its, but if you don't have a shove-it, I don't have a clarinet shove-it with me. This is called a pull-through. There's a weight on the bottom. What you do, you just drop it in there. You grab it the other way, and you pull it through. Now be very careful. You don't want to bend anything, but just once or twice, and that's good enough. What that's going to do, it's going to get rid of some of the moisture from inside the instrument, because you don't want that spit sitting in there. Really nice clarinets. Most of our clarinets are made of wood. The best ones are made out of wood. Some of them are made out of other materials, but if you have a wood clarinet, you don't want water on that wood, because that can cause a lot of bad things to happen to it. So you just take that in, the weight drops in, get it to come out the other side, maybe. There we go. And then you just very carefully pull it through. And that's how you keep your clarinet from stinking. And close that, close that, close that, and then that's the clarinet.